Let's get Eddie Guerrero on real quick. And we're going to head to a break because we're running on commercial time. Eddie, how you doing today?
Fine. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. I guess to start, we've gotten some reports on your match with Dean Malenko last night. Were you okay with the finish, as far as, or did you shake it up a little?
No, I got shaken up a little.
How do you feel?
I feel all right. Still a little woozy, but
what?
Not 100%.
What exactly?
Well,
what exactly happened?
Because I was shooting through the Frankensteiner, his head hit my head simultaneously as the back of my head hit the mat, so it was kind of a double shot in one, It wasn't done on purpose, but, it happened.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was more just upset that me and Dean, we usually give great matches, and that was just a so-so match for us,
Well, you've had a lot of chances to have some good matches with a lot of good young wrestlers in the company.
Yeah, and it just hasn't been happening. Maybe I'm losing my touch or something. I don't know.
Oh no, I think that you did real well. Like match for that Matt Hardy last week was real good.
No, I could have been a lot better.
No,
I'm just
that sometimes I've noticed that the best wrestlers are their worst critics, and sometimes I've also noticed that the worst wrestlers think that they have the best matches. Have you ever noticed?
I haven't heard that one in a long time.
I've noticed that, like, guys that really aren't that good are always like talking about how great they are, and then like someone like you or Chris Benoit, like almost will always like down and play the quality of your own matches, and you're like probably the top guys in the country right now.
I wouldn't say that. I think the top of the game, the guys that are the top of the game right now, and this is from a shoot point right now, I'll be honest, is Hunter Hearst Helmsley. Man, that guy has impressed me so much.
Well, his match with Jericho I thought was phenomenal.
And Chris Benoit, and Jericho has improved immensely. Oh my God, those guys, if anything, they're going to make me work hard in the gym again. Because, I've been real timid because of my arm, and I really haven't been at my 100%. At least I don't feel I have. And just watching those guys work and perform and give the matches that they're giving and, entertain the people the way they're entertaining them. I mean, you cannot help but help. You have the utmost respect for them. I mean, they're awesome. They're good people.
I thought the match with Helmsley and Jericho on Monday was just phenomenal.
Wasn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, when Chris came, me and Chris, we get along good, and when he came down, all I couldn't stop complimenting him because, I know Hunter, he's the leader out there. And that's what gives me, to me, he's the Ric Flair of the 90s, the 2000s, right? The new millennium. He can have a match with anybody. And the thing that I was impressed about Jericho was right there for everything. He had great charisma, great timing. He wasn't slow. He never backed off of anything. He was there. I mean, Jericho's got it going, man. He really does.
Yeah, he's put the whole package together in the last year or so.
Yeah,
especially in the last couple months.
He's kicking ass. And Benoit, not because he's my friend, but Benoit, man, what a talent. He's producing. It's kind of like a challenge. It's kind of like they're testing him every week. And every week they test him, he's coming through. And, I mean, how can you not admire guys like that?
I want to read this one for Brian. It's also for me. Uh-oh. It's from Scott Shapiro in Orlando. No, it's nothing to worry about. It says, I work out at the same gym as Rena Miro, World's Gym in Oviedo,
Rena Miro,
Florida.
Sable, right?
Yes, Sable. And he goes, and I can honestly tell you that Rena Miro cannot come close to squatting 405 pounds. He goes, she's stronger than the average woman on the street, but I'm 5'11", 200, and I can barely squat 405, and Rena Miro is probably not able to do more than 250, which is actually a hell of a squat.
I figured out the 225 bench, though.
What?
She meant 225.
Really? That's more than I bench.
As opposed to 225 pounds.
No, 225s. She was doing benches with 225s with dumbbells, right? Is that what you're telling me?
One in each hand.
That's more than I bench.
That's not 225s. Is not more than you bench.
Hey man, I'm a weakling.
No, there was an article in Muscle and Fitness that just came out where it said that Rena Mero can bench press 225 and squat 405, and I was rather skeptical of those numbers.
Well, if you believe that, then you believe that pigs can fly. Nothing against Rena, because she's a sweetheart and she's a very nice person, and I love Mark Merrill. He's a good guy, but you know, I think the magazine sometimes tends exaggerate a little bit sometimes, you know.
In that case, quite a bit. Anyway, have you ever wrestled European?
No, I haven't. But watching Dave and people such as Fit Finley, and also, you know, God, who was the other one? Who was it? Steven Regal's partner. What was his
Chris
name?
Adams.
Fit Finley, Dave Taylor.
Dave Taylor, yes, Dave Taylor. Phenomenal wrestlers, all of them. You know, they just never got their due credit. You know.
A lot of people sort of know your background in that your older brothers were pro wrestlers. Your father was a legendary pro wrestler in Mexico. At what age? I mean, you started professional wrestling, what, about 18, 19? 19.
Yeah.
At what age did you gravitate towards wrestling, and was it something you always knew you were going to do, or just because of the family?
Dave, one thing that I admire about my dad is that he never pushed wrestling on us. He let us play other sports, and he never insisted on wrestling. You know, he let that be a choice of our own. But when we did decide to wrestle, he was a perfectionist, you know. And basically, we were representing his name out there. And at that time, you know, being the world heavyweight champion and you know, the junior heavyweight, and the name that he carried, well, you know, he was harsh on us. So, you know, there was a lot of pressure there when we did decide to carry on the wrestling tradition. You know, the doors were open, but at the same time, it was hard to live up to the name. So it was kind of like it was a plus but a negative at the same time. And like, you know, getting back to your question, growing up, my dad never pushed wrestling on us. We played all sports, football, basketball, baseball. But, you know, you watch your father growing up wrestling and your older brothers, and, you know, you get out on the road with them and you live that lifestyle and you live it and you see, you just learn to love it. And that's what I've always wanted to do. You know, I can speak for myself, and I know that Chavo Jr., you know, was the same way. I mean, he's 3 years younger than me. He's basically like my younger brother. You know, technically he's my nephew, but he's my younger brother, you know, like in real life. And that's how we dreamed. I mean, I remember wrestling. Everybody had jungle gyms in the backyard. We had a wrestling ring. And I remember we used to wrestle. We used to make up, you know, scenarios and wrestle cage matches. And, I mean, we even had, you know, how do you say, ketchup, packages of ketchup, you know.
Oh, for blood.
We would put it on our forehead and pretend we were bleeding and stuff. I mean, our game, you know, was wrestling. I mean, we lived and we lived and played wrestling. So I guess maybe that's why it comes natural to us in the ring, and maybe that's why we're so hard on ourselves when it comes to wrestling. When somebody thinks, God, that's a good match, and we say to ourselves, you know, that was a shitty match, because we know what we can produce out there. You know, I guess that's where it comes from. You know.
Yeah, now you would have been, you know, because Chavo, your older brother is what would he be? About what? 18,
He's 19 years older than me.
Yeah. And he was in Los Angeles and Japan and in many places, Mexico as well. I mean, a lot of newer fans, you know, and there's so many people who have come onto wrestling in the last 2-3 years, you know, and Chavo Guerrero, you know, the father of the WCW, Chavo Guerrero Jr.
Right.
His father, when we were growing up, I mean, it was a phenomenal wrestler.
Oh, yes, he was. I mean, he was the top of the game when it came to junior heavyweight. Dave, I don't know if you know this, but he was one of the very few Mexican wrestlers. He's the only Mexican wrestler, besides I think Mil Máscaras, that actually held a title in Japan. And he held it for he held it for like 3 or 4 years.
Oh, yeah, that international junior heavyweight.
That's right. And he beat Fujinami for it. And then he switched companies with Baba, and then he held it there for like 2 years. So he was, my brother, Chavo, he accomplished a lot. He just never got the international recognition that I have had the opportunity of having because, of the evolution of wrestling and stuff like that. But my brother, Chavo, accomplished a lot, just as my other brothers, Mondo and Hector. They accomplished a lot, too. They just, they never had that national exposure that I've had the pleasure of having, the opportunity of having,
We've got a lot of emails and also got a full bank of calls. This is first from Alan Blackstock in Blackpool, England, who wants to know, looking back, what would you consider your funnest time and the best time of your career?
My funnest time? I think I had a lot of fun time with Art Bar. God rest his soul. Man, we had a great time. Because we were just always having fun out there, And, if I wasn't with my wife and my kids, I was living with him. Basically, he was my family. So, he was like, believe it or not, when I first met him, I wanted to kick his ass. I couldn't stand him. We couldn't see each other. And then Tonio Peña, I don't know why, he tagged us up. Maybe he saw something. And like the first couple months, we were basically at each other's throats. And then sooner or later, we just decided to work together. And then, the chemistry flowed. And then he was like a brother to me by the end of the second year. Literally like a brother. That's why when he passed away, it was so hard for me, But that was my funnest time. And I'll be honest with you, I'm having fun again. I'm having fun again now in WWF. This is a dream for me to be here because I never thought I could be in WWF because at the time I was growing up, it was a big man era. You would never see a smaller wrestler out there. And now that the business has changed and people know that it's entertainment and it's about talent and they like to see, good, solid wrestling out there, plus being entertained with storylines and stuff like that, being able to do that in WWF, which to me is probably, the number one company in the world. And I'm not just saying that because I'm working there. But, to be able to do that is just a dream come true to me, and I'm having a lot of fun. I'm having fun in the dressing room, which I haven't had fun in like 4 years.
Something I was going to ask you about is how was the comeback? A year?
A year ago.
A year and a half ago, on New Year's Eve, you got in a really bad car accident, which from the injuries, nobody ever said to me that you wouldn't be able to come back from it, but I heard those injuries and knowing your style being high flying, I was going like, boy, this, if the injuries don't heal, like for a guy with your style, a lot of injuries.
I'll be honest with you, I was really scared. For the first 2 days, I didn't know if I was going to live because I had a lacerated liver. And I was bleeding. And even if they would have operated, they didn't know if the bleeding was going to stop. So thank God, as the liver rejuvenates itself and it stopped bleeding. And then, I had reconstructive surgery done on my left ankle, my shin. Then it was like, well, we don't know if you're going to walk normal again. And it went from that till it's going to take you 8 months to walk again. And then it's going to take you a year to wrestle again. Well, thank God, within 6 months I was back in the ring, and it was a big, heavy pressure to go out there and produce because, the fans don't understand that you're hurt. They don't understand, what you've gone through and stuff like that. And your personal, problems or situations, they want to be entertained. That's why they pay the ticket. So, yes, it was a heavy burden for me when I came back to go out there and try and produce the same kind of matches that I was producing before.
When you first came back, I noticed it was. I mean, and I don't know how you would describe it. Your first match back, it would be like on and off. Like you would have one match where it was like technically wrestling wise you were really good, but it seemed like you were subdued as far as I don't.
Being careful.
I would say careful.
Up. It's all right. I won't be offended.
No. But being careful, and then you would have matches where actually it was the other. It would be like you'd have a really good match, and then you would come back with a match where it was almost like you were being careful. And I almost got the sense that nobody said anything, but the sense that you were hurting a lot worse, at least when you first came back, than you were letting on.
Oh yeah. I was in a lot of pain when I first came back. I came back too early. I think the doctors told me not to come back that early. But I was really getting antsy at home. I should have waited at least another 3 months before I came back, because my back wasn't completely healed, and I had still scar tissue I had broken my right hip socket, and that wasn't completely healed either. So, I would come back in some matches, I would feel good. In some matches, I was in a lot of pain, which I would favor. And that's kind of what's going on with me right now. With my elbow, I know I'm holding back a lot because I can feel it. A lot of people say, no, you're doing good, but you know what? I know inside my heart that I can do a lot better, and I know that without wanting to, I hold back. I think it's a subconscious thing, and really what I want to do is just get rid of the brace and start wrestling like I used to and just take my chances again. But I can't do that, not just yet. I think I need to wait maybe a couple more months before I really get rid of the brace and go full bore, because I'm not going full bore out there right now. Between me and you, I'm going about 80%, 80 to 90. I am being careful out there. And the reason for that is you got to understand, I got a family to support. If it was just me, myself, I could care less about myself and go out there and just give it all for the fans. But I got to think about my 2 daughters and my wife that I got to support. And this is the way I support them, is through wrestling. And so, I do have to be smart in what I do out there.
Was it a decision by you to take the frog splash out, or did they tell you not to do it anymore? Or
be honest,
waiting?
Yes, they did tell me not to do it. It wasn't my choice. If anything, I want to do it so bad because I know I can rock it again. If anything, I know I can get higher now with these ropes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've noticed, but like on those Frankensteiners, I've been getting my ass up there. And that's probably why I got hurt last time. But I mean, I know I can really launch out there because the ropes, and they really spring you up. And I know I can really get up there, and I'm dying to do it again, and my confidence is back again. But Vince just doesn't want me. He doesn't want to take that risk, and I can respect his concerns, because he just got me back, and he's got an investment in me, and I'm sure he doesn't want me sitting on the bench, So I
what do you think about the rings in general?
A little stronger and a little bit more confident till he might let me go back to doing that again.
Go ahead, Brian.
What do you think about the rings in general? I mean, they're bigger.
The ring is bigger. I like it because we can do more spots. The spots can be easier, but it is stiffer. Like the power bombs that I take, like from Benoit and Dean and Perry Saturn. I'm not gonna lie to you, man. They crush me. Oh, man, do they crush me. Especially having 3 compressed vertebrae in my back, But, it's not that bad. It's not as stiff as it was before, but it is stiffer than the WCW ring.
But we're gonna hit you a break. Before we go to the break, do you know Art Barr's younger brother Sean?
No, I don't.
Okay, so we had a couple of questions. Art Barr's got a younger brother who's actually going to Mexico as the new Love Machine, Sean Barr. So there were a couple of questions about that.
He didn't have a younger brother.
Yeah, in Oregon, yeah, I think it was Jesse, Art, and Sean. Yeah, Sean.
I know Jesse.
Yeah.
Well, maybe he did, but gosh, man, I know about Jesse, but I didn't know about Sean.
Yeah, he wasn't in the business then, and I think he just started refereeing, and he's...
Oh, okay, okay, now I remember. Okay, yes, he did.
I think he's probably early 20s right now.
Okay.
Got a ton of emails and a bunch of phone calls as well for Eddie. Before we start, I got this from Scott Keith, who said, "You've forgotten the funniest thing on the Hogan show last night. When Hogan was talking about his heel phase, he said, with a straight face, that Hollywood couldn't hold on to a title if his life depended on it, and he would always lose it after a few days. I guess that one-year title reign, 96 and 97, only counts as a few days." So anyway, I was just like kind of, okay, that's what Hogan said. The whole thing was whatever. Let's start hitting the
worst buy rate ever, huh?
What, the one Sunday?
Yeah.
I haven't heard Sunday's buy rate yet.
I heard it was the worst, even the worst.
It may not necessarily be good.
That's what I heard. I don't know how true it is.
I don't know. I haven't heard a number for that one, but boy, if that's
in your
true.
personal opinion, how was the pay-per-view?
Not good.
Not good.
No.
You know what? And I know this is gonna sound really ironic, but I feel for those guys because a lot of those guys are my friends, and I want to see them succeed. Especially my nephew. But those guys, they say they're going to turn things around. And they put up a front like they are turning things around. But it's basically the same thing, Dave. Just in a different way, How can you do that? How can you do that to the boys? How can you do that to the business? If the business has given you so much, if the business has made you, I don't want to name a person or a particular name, but you know who I'm talking about. But if the business has given you so much money, and believe me, he did not make wrestling. There was a lot of people before him that wrestled and made a lot of money and that paved his way there. But if the business has made so much money for you and your family and friends around you, how can you be so greedy to hurt other guys that are trying to make a living out of it, to hurt other guys that are trying to climb their way up and keep other guys down? How can you do that? Am I wrong by saying that?
No.
Because if I'm wrong, please correct me.
No. The other thing is you lived through it for like 3-4 years. I know, but the way you think about it, Dave. Dave, this business has given him everything. Yeah.
Not only him, a lot of other people up there. And instead of giving back, they want to take more, and they want to kill it.
I think that it's a game of manipulation that they want to play, and now that they have it's like they all went through. No one's making, for the most part, with a few exceptions. Most of the guys now are making more money than anyone's ever made in wrestling. Mm-hmm. And a lot of these guys that have been around for 20 years, they had
I will give him that. He did open the doors for that, and I thank him for that. And I will personally stand here and thank Hulk Hogan for opening the doors and allowing me to have a better living for my family by him opening the doors and doing that. But at the same time, now he's doing the complete opposite.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Even you, take yourself out of the picture and look at people who and just like for just throwing a name, Chris Benoit, since instead of talking about Eddie Guerrero, we'll talk about Chris Benoit because we all know Chris Benoit. And he was there for 3-4 years, and we know what happened to him, or even Jericho, because for all they want to say about, Chris may not be a great interview, so he's missing that piece. It's like Chris Jericho.
They're great wrestlers.
Yeah, they're great wrestlers.
Okay, and the interview can come. It's just like, all right, Hulk Hogan's a great interviewer, but he can't wrestle worth a shit.
Yeah.
He couldn't even tie Chris Benoit's shoelaces. So tell me, how does that even out? Because he's a great interviewer that makes him better to make all the money, and Chris Benoit goes out there and busts his ass and does all the hard work, and he's a workhorse. That way they can come out and do their interview. How does that make that fair?
Well, I think part of it is that if they were able to keep you or Chris Benoit or even a Chris Jericho out of that top spot, they could wrestle each other kind of that easy style, or easy, I don't want to say anything's easy, easier style than you guys do. And if they can maintain that the main event style is easier, without guys who are pushing them, because you're not going to go in there and just lay down and just not do a match. Yeah. And because you're motivated to do your kind of match, and Benoit's very motivated to do.
The thing is, Dave, that you got a Chris Benoit, okay, a Dean Malenko, other people that can adjust to their style of wrestling. They don't have to do our style of wrestling. Our style of wrestling, see, that's what a lot of people don't understand. And you yourself are a witness, Dave. We can go out there and do any kind of style. If they want a Mexican-style wrestling match, we'll give them a Mexican-style wrestling match. If they want an American style, we'll give them American. If they want Japanese, we'll give them Japanese. We can wrestle it all. That's what these guys don't understand. And by them blocking us, what they don't understand is that if they would have given us the opportunity to come up there and work with them, I think they would have prolonged their career, because it creates more interest and it would have given them different people to work with instead of blocking us and keeping us down, to where we don't even want to be there, to where we didn't even want to show up to work. I mean, I grew up in this business, Dave. I mean, loving it, living it, dreaming it, eating it, doing, excuse my language, but shitting it. You know what I mean? And for me, the only happiness that I had was when I was inside the ring. When I was inside the ring, see, nobody can take that away from me. No promoter, no wrestler, nobody can take that away from me except God, because that's a God-given gift. Whether it be 1 minute or whether it be 20 minutes or an hour, that's mine. But outside of the ring, it was a living hell. It became a living hell. Inside the dressing room, I mean, you didn't know whether to smile, whether to be happy, and all that. And what they're trying to do now is they're trying to make it, happy again, and they're trying to make it good again. But you tell me, they did that for the first couple, I guess, maybe a month or two, and now they're making it into a ridiculous show. And that's my opinion.
I mean, I have liked a few of their shows. I've probably disliked more than I've liked. But I mean, I think one of the things that I miss, and Brian and I talk about this on almost every show, is that they rarely have a good wrestling match, and it's not because they don't have good wrestlers, because Eddie, you know better than anyone.
You took the words right out of my mouth.
I mean, we could name 10, 12 guys that are really talented wrestlers there, but they never wrestle each other, and if they do, it's ruined by a run-in in 90 seconds, so what does it matter?
And I mean, they're trying to recreate what they had 3 years ago, but I don't think
they're not even doing that.
They had.
You know what they forgot? They forgot the fundamentals. What's it called? Wrestling. You still got to have some kind of wrestling in there, guys. I don't care how much of a show it becomes. You still got to have some wrestling in there.
There's one thing that everyone I don't want to say forgets, because Steve Regal brought this up yesterday, is that during that period when WCW was beating WWF in the ratings every Monday night, there was a formula there, and the NWO was part of the formula, and everyone, Hulk Hogan was a big part of the formula, absolutely.
Right.
But they had great wrestling matches. I mean, Brian, you remember every Monday night. I remember.
Night they had the Lucha match, or they just had Benoit and Eddie, or Malenko. Just awesome matches.
I can tell you, Monday night, I used to look forward to 5 o'clock. I mean, I was excited because Nitro was going to start, and there would be a little bit of everything for everyone. I mean, I could see Ultimo Dragon, and I could see Rey Mysterio Jr., Eddie Guerrero, Psychosis, and you get good wrestling. You got Ric Flair to do interviews. There was a little bit of everything.
Right, they had a little bit of everything for everybody, right? And you're absolutely right. That's what made Nitro so good, is that they gave a variety. And I think that's what WWF has now, a variety. Vince had to go that way. He had to he still has his big men, and I know he still believes in that in certain ways, but he's also changed to the point that he knows he needs to have wrestling matches in there, which is where Chris Benoit comes in, Dean Malenko, Perry Saturn, other good wrestlers like Val Venus, Chris Jericho. I can go on, and it's kind of switched roles, don't you think?
Yeah, the other thing is that there really are not, most of the guys in WWF right now are guys that you could have a match with, and then the few guys that aren't quite as good, they know how to use them effectively too, and they're not in the dominant position either. Mm-hmm. They're just, like if the Godfather, the Godfather's ring entrance, so he does his ring entrance, and everyone goes up for it because it's part of the show, and they love that part of the show.
Oh yeah, he's great at what he does.
Yeah, right, exactly. But it's not like, they're not asking him to do what he can't do. And, no one's stinking out the joints, if you know what I mean.
Right.
Yeah, we've got to hit the calls because we've got a full bank here, and we've been getting into them. Let's go to Hector in Texas. You're first up with Eddie.
Yeah, Eddie, I'm from El Paso, and I'm a big fan of yours. I wanted to know.
I'm sorry, Hector.
I was at the house show last week, and I just wanted to ask you, what do you think about the reaction you got in that show?
He's asking about. Yeah, he was in Los Cruces at the show the other night.
Oh God, it sent chills up my spine. I just wish I could have had more time, to wrestle. God, how can I not be excited and thrilled about that reaction? You go to your hometown and they're chanting your name, even though you may be a bad guy or a good guy or whatever, and they're chanting your name. How can you not like it? And especially being a hometown. Yeah, man, it was a great thrill for me.
And another question is, and this is my last question, if you could bring a few guys from WCW other than your cousin, who would you bring, to the WWF?
Who would I bring to WWF?
Yeah.
I know this sounds really bogus, but I would bring my nephew Chavo.
He said besides Chavo.
I would bring Billy Kidman. I would bring Rey Mysterio Jr. And who else would I bring? A lot of respect for him. I would like to see Kurt Hennig back. Kurt Hennig, if they would give Kurt Hennig the opportunity to go out and perform the way he can and has before, he was a hell of a performer. So I would, those are people that I admire, that I respect, that I would like to have. Friends of mine, Conan, obviously. Just a lot of people that I used to hang out with, I think Hugh Morris is a hell of a talent that's not being utilized like they should, But, who am I to say that? Obviously I'm not the booker, and I'm only a wrestler, and they're the ones that are the geniuses, because if they weren't geniuses, they wouldn't be making the money they're making, and they wouldn't be producing what they're producing,
Thanks, Eddie.
Sure,
Keep representing Latinos on El Paso.
Thank you.
Okay, real quick before we go to the next call, I've got this because it actually popped in my head, and we've gotten a couple of emails about this. The basic gist is, looking back, we've talked about, wrestling, main events in Mexico, a lot of great matches in Japan, WCW, WWF. If you look back now, what are your favorite wrestling matches that you had during your career, if it's like a series or a specific match or whatever?
Against Chris Benoit. I had some real good matches against Chris Benoit in Japan. And I had a couple of good ones here in the States with him. Also, the Dean Malenko matches in ECW. And we had some good ones in WCW. And obviously the one with Rey Mysterio Jr. in Halloween Havoc. I think that was an awesome match.
Title.
Yeah, the mask match, yeah.
Yeah, the mask match.
The one that I always remember is the one in L.A. with you and Art Barr against Santo and Aqua.
Of course, I'm sorry. Please forgive me for that. But, that's the number one, man. How can you forget that? Santo and Octagon against me and Art for our hair. Jeez, what else do you want? And Art just stole the show. He was a man. Art was a man. God rest his soul, but he was a man. I have nothing. A lot of my success I owe to him.
Do you? Because I noticed some of your mannerisms and everything. You picked up a lot, a lot of his stuff.
What Art taught me, Dave? Not to be shy. Not to be shy in front of the camera. Let it out. So, you see that Latino heat, a lot of people say I'm being stereotyped and stuff like that. believe me or not, that's really a Chicano, That's what I am. But basically I don't have the accent. But you go to El Paso, where I grew up, a lot of guys talk like that, man, We get that accent, and it's not being stereotyped. I mean, that's what I am, and I'm portraying that just in a fun way. That's all I'm doing, and that comes from art. Art, I would have never been able to do that if I didn't tag team with Art. Art brought, I was so serious about wrestling, and I believed in just being straight out wrestler in the ring. I never believed in how do you say, portraying to the people and making it entertaining to the people until I saw Art. And, I would look at him, I was going, God, why is he getting paid double more than I am, and I'm busting my ass, and he's making more money, and people love him more than I do. Then they do me. And it's just because he had charisma, and he knew how to make the people laugh, cry, mad, and anything he wanted to do. And, who else taught me a lot of that was Negro Casas. Just two great showmen that could go out there and wrestle and do it all. And if anything, I owe a lot of my stuff to Art. Not that I have a lot of great stuff, but I mean, what I do have, Art is a big part of it.
Let's go to Western Virginia. Wes, you're next up with Eddie.
Hi, guys. Eddie, I wanted to ask you earlier, you brought up a point about how, like, in the mid-'90s, it got more back into wrestling. What are some of the things you thought brought it back and away from kind of like the big, I guess, steroided-up kind of guys that was in the mid-'90s?
I'm sorry, repeat yourself.
He basically was going like what, like it's gotten so much more, especially in WWF. There's more. It's a lot more wrestling oriented. Okay,
well, let me ask you this question: how many times can you see somebody go out there and pose, and then run and hit the rope and hit a tackle and not fall down?
I don't know, because I haven't been to a bodybuilding contest in years.
How many times can you see that?
Yeah.
And you saw that basically for 10 years. I mean, in different ways, but that's what you saw, right or wrong.
Yeah, well, it was
with an exception of few wrestlers. I'm not saying every wrestler was like that, but I would say 80% of them were. And I think people got tired of seeing that, and people wanted to see wrestling again. Maybe not the American grab a hold, work it, drop down, tackle, get it again. But I think more of the Japanese style that Chris Benoit, Dean Malenko brought, Jericho brought to the States, where you get a little bit of everything, a little bit of flying, a little bit of mat wrestling, and a little bit of rocking and rolling, punching, kicking, suplexes, and stuff like that. Just a combination of everything, which entertains the people. And then you got your big men that come out there and kick ass. And then you got your guys that are great interviewers, such as The Rock, Ric Flair, people that can just turn it on the mic, and that's what wrestling is now. It's just a great all-around entertainment show. It's a physical soap opera. That's what it is, really, if you look at it.
Anything else, Wes?
Yeah, I wanted to ask one more for Eddie. A couple years back in WCW, you and Chris Jericho got to be a tag team for a couple of weeks, and it really seemed like it was starting to get over, and the rug got...
Oh, God, I love
that. Oh, no. This is like one of my pet peeves you bring up.
I just wonder what happened with you two there.
No, you know what happened? They knew it was going to get over, so they... Now, that's the truth, God honest truth.
Do you guys remember?
I mean, always here.
Wes, I mean, I don't know if you remember this or not, but this actually wasn't with Eddie, but this was when Ray and Juventud teamed up about 2 times on television.
Sure.
And it started getting over. And I just remember writing this, like I go, these guys have so much charisma, Ray and Juventud, as a team together, that I know that by writing this, I'm never going to see them to team again. And actually, believe it or not, I think they're supposed to team up Monday, but up until Monday, they never teamed again. It was like, oh.
You know what? When you got something good, you scare the guys on top. And when you scare the guys on top, they're the first ones that are going to go out and have an egg. And if I ever get a chance to tag team with Jericho, I know we'd be a good tag team. You know, I think it'd be kind of... I cannot compare Jericho to Art because there's only one Art bar. But I know me and Jericho can create our own different style of tag team, you know, that would entertain the people. You know, but Jericho's so over with the people now that they love him, you know. And me, I'm kind of like what you call a tweener. They love China, but they don't like me. You know, they still want to hate me. They still want to see me as a bad guy. And I believe that a lot of people think, what the heck is China? You know, this awesome-looking woman, you know, doing with a dweeb like Eddie Guerrero. And I think there's mixed emotions, and I think that's where I'm stuck right now, you know. I think that if I were to get one solid direction, either I think I'm a better heel than I am a babyface. I think that if they would just let me go heel 100% and do my thing, that I could really rock and roll.
Okay, guys, now it's time for WF Daily Trivia. Here's today's question. And what a coincidence this is. Who knew what the conversation was going to be like today? When Hulk Hogan was WWF champion, I think it was actually the last time he was WWF champion, he was said on a tour that the WWF belt was like a Christmas tree ornament in compared to a real world championship belt or a certain belt. Which belt was he referring to? Those of you who were around in 1993 will probably remember there was actually a bit of controversy about this at that time. So anyway, that's today's question. Before we get back to Eddie Guerrero, this is actually from Chris Hussein, who says, actually has a question also, but it says, the A&E interview opened my eyes so much about Hulk Hogan. I think we all come down too hard on the guy like they said we do. What we as fans should do is give him a parade at least once a month, just like they did in the interview.
I was thinking back to the whole Hulk Hogan deal, and I was thinking, if I were Hulk Hogan, why would I even want to face the same guys for like 3 years in a row?
I know, there's like
Wouldn't
so much...
so boring? Oh, here's another match with Savage. I've had 45 in the last year.
Yeah, but they, you know, I mean, you know, what part of it is Hogan and Savage drew big money in the past, and even in recent years, and it's one of those things where Hogan thinks in his mind, it's like, I can always go back to Savage, I can always go back to Piper, I can always go back to Flair because those are money matches, and he respects those guys because they were money players, and the other guys, you know, he can always go in there and say, well, they've never proven in this country to be money players, but the point is, as we all know, is that unless you're put in the position to be in that, unless you're put in that position, you can't be in that position, and it's a weird catch-22.
I understand that part. I mean, it's just like having to have the same matches, though.
Well, I don't know. Maybe we should get him on the show and ask him.
Could we do that?
I want to ask one real quick question before we get to the calls. The car, the Love Machine, does that have anything to do with Art Barr, or is it just like the Latino using the term Love Machine for their car?
Both. It was both. You know, it was there, so I used it, and I always want to have art in my life, in one way or another. And you know, if I can throw that in, you know, why not? You know, it fit the bill too, so, you know, yes, it was both, you know. It was there, and it was done for him, too.
Okay. Let's go to Matt in San Francisco. Matt, you're up with Eddie Guerrero.
Hey, guys. How's it going?
Hey, Matt. How are you?
Alrighty. Just a quick comment for you, Dave. I am so glad you brought Zach Arnold on board. Okay, that guy is it when it comes to Japanese reporting.
Is he something I don't know? I mean, I've been emailing Zach Arnold back and forth, but I don't know how all the negotiations with the website have gone.
Well, he was on the website today.
Oh, that's awesome.
There's an update.
Nobody ever tells me anything.
Come on, Chico, get it together, buddy.
But do you know this, Brian?
I think you do, because I saw them there.
Nobody ever tells me anything. Oh, my God. Okay, well, that's cool.
Anything involving the website that Dave does not know about, you should not be shocked about.
I don't know anything. No one tells me anything. I don't know. I have this feeling I have this Yahoo chat at 6 just because it's in my bones that it's Wednesday and no one said a word, so it must be true.
Oh, you do, I think.
I got one. Hey, that was pretty good. I got to plug in for that. But no,
Dave, Well, now that you have Zach on the roster, what do you think about having him phone in, a couple days a week for the show?
That's not a bad idea. That's a real good idea. Yeah, we should get him on and talk about Japanese wrestling, especially, this week. God, with everything that went on down there.
Yeah, exactly. One question for you, Eddie. What are your feelings about Conan, Bob Barnett, and Vampiro?
What are my feelings about Conan? Who?
Bob Barnett and Vampiro.
Okay, Bob Barnett. Who's that?
He may not know Bob. Bob's like he's Vampiro's business manager. He's
okay.
You've probably met him in Los Angeles. I'm sure you have.
Conan's never done anything bad to me. Conan's always been great. Every time, we've been together basically everywhere we go to, and we've had some personal issues, but we've always been able to iron them out man to man, and that's what I respect about Conan. And what I respect a lot about Conan is that he takes care of the boys, the Mexican boys. He always tries and does the best for them. Unfortunately, he can never accomplish what he wants to with them, because of the situation. But Conan, inside, he is really a great guy. Obviously he's a businessman first and foremost, and will always take care of himself just like any other businessman will. But Conan is a class act.
I do agree.
Vamp, personally as a friend, I love him. He's a nice guy. But as a business guy, as a businessman, I wouldn't trust him as far as I could throw him. And that's a shoot. I'm sorry, I love the guy, but business-wise, he's very different.
All right.
I think a lot of people are like that, and he's not the only one that's like that. So I'm sure he's just looking out for himself. But I've dealt with too many situations with him to where he's not straight up with me, and he's God bless him. I don't want to talk bad about nobody. God bless him. I just he's a good guy. He's a good friend. I just don't trust him business-wise. And Bob Barnett, I don't know enough about Bob Barnett to say anything bad or negative. And even if I did, I wouldn't want to, That's none of my business, and I got nothing to do with him, so I'd rather just stay out of that subject.
Anything else, Matt?
Yeah, question for you, Dave. Why is it that WCW will not let any of their boys on your show?
You'll have to ask them that question. I mean, for a while there, I think, there's when I was at the Pillman show not all that long ago, a couple of the guys asked to do it, and Vampiro actually did the show, and Paige wanted to do it that night. But I think that you have to ask them. I mean, I don't know that it's an outright ban. We actually have a couple of guys lined up, but I cross my fingers if they're going to be on. So, I mean, it's the same thing. It's like, I mean, since I was told that nobody would be on, that we had Candido on, we had Mysterio on. So it's like, I don't know I really don't know what the deal is.
It almost seems like whatever the day is, too.
Yeah, because guys have been called up and said, you cannot do the show, and then 2 days later, another guy from the company is on, and no one called them up and told them they couldn't do the show. So I don't know, I don't know what the situation is. I mean, obviously there have been guys who have been told, and Juventud was, I've been wanting Juventud on the show since the first day we did the show, just to give him a chance to talk. Yeah, Hoovy Juice. And, for various reasons, mainly because he was living in Mexico, it was hard to pull it off. And then finally we got it arranged. And then that day, they called up and said he couldn't do it. And it was kind of disappointing, But, as far as an answer as to why, you gotta ask them. I don't know.
Wow. Do you have a lineup for, the next couple of weeks?
I mean, I know next week we've got Cornette on Monday. I know we've got Kurt Angle. We got Kurt Angle tomorrow. We got
Jerry Lynn Tuesday.
I can give you the rundown, guys.
Al, why don't you run down everybody?
It's Kurt Angle tomorrow. Then we've got Frank Shamrock is on Friday. Next week is Jim Cornette on Monday, Jerry Lynn Tuesday, Mike Mooneyham on Wednesday. Thursday's going to be an archive because we'll be en route to the Louisville Gardens because Friday we'll be broadcasting live from there for the Jim Cornette Show. And then Monday the 26th is Lenny Lane.
Oh, really?
And then tentatively for Thursday and Friday of that week, the 29th and 30th, it's Shannon Moore and Gene Kaninsky.
That Lane interview is going to be very interesting.
So I hear, because I heard that he was on WCW Live, and they got rid of him like really quick. That's what I was told. I mean, I didn't, that's so I don't know. It's just
one more question for you there, Eddie.
Sure.
What are your feelings about Crash Holly?
Crash Holly?
Yeah, Mike.
In what way?
In the locker room.
Crash Holly, I think he's a great guy, man. He's fun to be around.
He is a character, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, he is. He's fun. Every guy I've met in WWF has been great. They've treated not just myself, but all of us with respect. I speak about Perry, Malenko, and Benoit with respect. They all give us a lot of respect. And they're just great guys, They really are. So, be honest with you, I'm happy again. I really am. I really am happy again.
Okay, not being able to predict the future. What was it like? I mean, and the reason I ask is because, you've got kids at home, you're married, and you had a really well-paying, guaranteed job with WCW, even though as you could, you were miserable a lot of the time. But still, I mean, it was a lot of money, it was great income, and it was guaranteed. And what was it like? Was it easy for you to leave? I mean, when the time came and made that decision, or was it a really hard choice?
No, it wasn't a hard choice. It was really easy.
Okay.
I'll be honest with you. I never expected it to happen because I had tried so hard before, and they would never let us go. Eric would never let me go. Eric, we had our spats before, but Eric, believe it or not, is a really good guy. And, Eric is like, I'm a lot like Eric. We live our emotions. We show our emotions. And the thing with Eric, I'll always be grateful to him, is that when I had my car accident, I had not signed my contract yet, and he still sent me that contract, and he took care of me. And I will be grateful to him for the rest of my life for that. And if he was still there at WCW when that thing happened, I would have never left, just out of loyalty to him because of what he did for me. But then again, I'm sure if he was there, he would have never allowed the situation to get out of hand the way it did with all of us, because Eric knew he wasn't using us to our potential, but he knew what he had in us. He's not dumb. He knew what he had in us. And I'm not saying that Bill Bush is dumb. It's not that he wasn't. Bill Bush he's the money man. He was there to economical reasons. He really didn't know what was going on as far as wrestling is concerned. And he had other people in his ear telling him what to do, and he was listening to that, But, for people that don't think we didn't make an impact, I mean, look at it this way, and I'm not, Dave, please correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm not trying to boast or nothing. You guys know me. I'm the last guy that will boast. If anything, I believe in being humble because, I'm a Christian, and I believe in that. But when we left, the ratings in WWF, I mean, we drew an 8.1 when it was that 4 tag team match, even though I wasn't wrestling.
The 10-man tag team like that.
Yeah, and we did draw a lot of attention. And not only that, things got switched around in WCW to where guys that never had opportunities before got their opportunity. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So by us leaving, we did create some, I guess, some kind of wave,
How was this is from Sam Nord here, who goes, with all your wrestling talent, did you ever think you'd achieve your greatest fame simply by showing your personality especially after never being labeled as the best interview in wrestling? And how is it working with China? It goes, it looks like you two are having a lot of fun out there doing the gimmick.
I'm sorry, repeat yourself. The people say I wasn't a good interviewer and stuff like that.
What we said was, with all of your wrestling talent, did you ever think you'd achieve your greatest fame simply by showing your personality, particularly because you were never labeled the world's best interviewer? And then
I never had a chance to do my personality. And when they did give me an interview, it was like, okay, what do I talk about? Oh, whatever you want. Well, give me an idea. They never gave me direction. Very few times did they give me direction, and when they did give me direction, if I didn't do it the way they wanted me to, they would get hot at me. The only time I think I really did do some good interviews was when I was working against Chavo, and that's because I was having fun with it. And I think I'm doing some decent interviews and having some fun with China, so I'm not saying that I'm a good interviewer, because I'm not. I got a lot to learn as far as interviewing and speaking on the mic. I'm the first one to admit that. But if anything, I want to learn and get better at it. But to answer your question, Dave, yeah, I was never given the chance, period, over and out.
We also have a couple of winners of the trivia question, Oliver Postlewaite of Ottawa and Wes Vance of Kentucky. The question, Brian, you know the answer to that question?
IWGP title.
You got it right. That's really good.
That's 2 posters in a row for me.
That's right. We also got a couple of emails, a couple of notes on the King of the Ring main event. This was actually said on SmackDown, but we did not bring it up on the show. The stipulations are that if Undertaker, Rock, and Kane win the match on the 25th, that the one who scores the pinfall will get the title shot at the July pay-per-view. If Vince, Shane, and Helmsley win, the winner of the King of the Ring tournament will get the title shot on the pay-per-view. Helmsley, how about Helmsley against Jericho, Rock against Undertaker? How's that?
Wow.
Ideas? And just ideas. There's something else in here. I got to ask Eddie this in just a second. Also, I think we have not mentioned this, but it is official that Sikosa, Silver King, Dandy, the Villanos, and La Parka were all given their release by World Championship Wrestling.
When did this happen?
I guess it's officially today. I had heard about it this morning.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
See, that's
Isn't
what
it,
I'm talking
though?
about.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. Tell me which one of those guys is not a good talent.
Of those guys? Oh God, those guys are all good talents. Especially, you know what was amazing to me was
since the beginning, since they got there, all they did was just use them. Yeah. And they weren't even given a chance. So that just goes to show you the politics a little bit.
Eddie, did you ever see the match with the Viano 3 in Atlantis from?
No, but I heard it was phenomenal.
It's so funny because I'm watching this match, and it's probably the best match I've seen all year, certainly in the top 2 or 3.
Wow.
And I'm watching this and I'm going his 2 younger brothers that wrestle in WCW. I think Viano 4 is maybe better than 3. I don't know. You've wrestled them all, so you would have a better opinion. But I'm just thinking those guys, and I understand that there's a whole roster of guys who can do this. How come we never see it?
I know, man. I don't want to start raising issues here. But, hey, it's a good old boy network.
Yeah.
Take it for what it's worth when I say that.
This is a question that I was going to ask.
Let me put it to you this way, okay?
Yeah.
I was there 4.5 years. I asked them to do things with me as far as the Latino market. When they did the LWO, and I went to El Paso and California and Chicago, and where there's a big Latino Hispanic population, they had no LWO shirts, okay? I had people asking me left and right. I asked for interviews to do Latino stuff, because, just stuff in Texas and California, and just stuff to help out the company, not just for myself. 4 years, I never did that. I mean, I've been here 4 months. I've been in the cover of Raw magazine. You know what I mean? All of us. The first month, I think it was. We were there 4 years. We never got that. I've already done an interview with TV Guide Latino. I've already done an interview with People Magazine Latino. It just goes to show you the difference of quality, of professionalism. And I don't want to bring up, or like I said, raise any issues, but, you know, I don't think the color of your skin or the type of ethnic background you come from is an issue here in this company that I'm working for, which is WWF, to where it might be over there.
You know,
how's merchandising going?
Huh?
How's merchandising going as far as like T-shirts and that sort of thing?
We're getting on that. The only thing is, just my shirt should be. We came out with those radical shirts. You got to remember that when we came in at a spur of the moment. So like the radical shirts and all that, it took, you know, they rushed that. But like other people that come in, you know, they come in with like 4 or 5 months knowing ahead of time, so they get a chance to prepare for all of that. So when they do come in, they're set. When we came in, we weren't set for that. And what I respect about them is like every shirt, they don't just get a shirt and throw it out there. They go through like 18 people, and everybody gives their opinion on it, and they want to see what's going to be best as far as the sales is concerned, as far as the character is concerned, as far as where Vince wants to go with your character and stuff like that. And that's what I admire. So, you know, I think that's what's going on right now with our merchandising. Not just speaking for myself, I'm speaking for, you know, Chris, Dean, Perry, and myself, is that our characters really haven't been established. I have a character, but it's really not established if you think about it. You don't know whether I'm a babyface or a heel yet. You know, really, if you think about it. You know, you'll have people cheering for China, and then the next minute they're yelling, Eddie sucks, Eddie sucks. And then the next minute, you know, she'll come up and knock the heck out of the guy, and I'll pin him, and they're all cheering for both of us. I mean, it's really weird, but at least we're getting a reaction, you know? So I think that's kind of what's going on. Chris Benoit obviously is working his ass off. He's producing, and man, what great matches is he having. I have nothing but the utmost respect for him. Perry, you know, they still don't know where they're going with him. I think Dean, they got an idea now for him, and it's just a matter of bringing it out. You know, so really, you know, we came in there, we came in there knowing that we had been let go from over there. And really kind of like, you know, the storyline was like, we need a job, please give us a job. You know, and now that we do have our jobs, they don't know where they're going with us, really. I think they have an idea, but it's just not established completely. Did I make sense? You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. We got to rush through these callers because we've got a full bank and we're going to get through as soon as we can.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Let's go in on callers. Just ask like maybe 1 or 2 real quick questions because we're trying to get through as many as possible. John in Tampa, you're next up.
Hey, what's up, Eddie?
Hey, what's going on?
I just want to ask, who's your favorite person to work in the ring with?
Chris Benoit.
Chris Benoit?
Yep.
I got some advice for you two. You said you needed to improve your interview skills, right?
Yeah.
You should get some old Cactus Jack tapes from ECW.
Old Cactus what?
Old Cactus Jack tapes from ECW. Those are some interviews right there.
All right, you're on. I'll do that.
All right.
Thanks for the advice.
In WWF too. Mick Foley interviews. My God, the guys. Do you remember the interview he did right before the match where he retired, or even though he came back? I thought it was one of the best interviews I ever heard.
He's incredible, isn't he?
Yeah, the one on the SmackDown interview.
Yeah.
Let's go to Jamie in Alabama.
Hi, Eddie. How you doing?
Fine, Jamie. How are you?
Pretty good. I know you haven't been in WWF that long, but who has been your idol since you've been growing? When you were like in training and wrestling? Who were you wanting to be like, or who inspired you as you were training?
Who was my idol when I was training?
Yeah.
Well, you know, I always just admired my dad. I know the people aren't smart to my dad, but I saw a lot of my dad's old tapes. I admired my
one
dad.
more question.
I admired my brother Chavo a lot. Obviously my brothers, but my brother Chavo really
who would you like to wrestle or feud with?
And Ric Flair, believe it or not. I love his psychology. I've always liked his psychology.
And Jamie, anything else?
That's it. I appreciate it, Eddie, and good luck in the future.
Thank you.
Were you, since you brought up Ric Flair, were you disappointed that you never had a chance to do like any kind of a program with Ric Flair? Or,
I did at the beginning, but they never followed it through. I had a couple matches. I think I had like 3 or 4 matches, and I had some decent matches with him. I just wish that I could have kept on working with him. I mean, the man can still go. He's phenomenal. I know people say he's old and all that, and a lot of people say once you've seen him, once or twice you've seen it all. But believe it or not, when he wants to go and turn it on, he can have one hell of a match. He really can, and a different style of match. He can get anybody and go out there and have a match. That's what he can do. That's what I admire about him. He can have a match with anybody.
With Vince Russo and with David Flair.
With David Flair while handcuffed.
Well, I'll leave that one out.
Let's go to Ricardo.
That was pretty bad, but that wasn't his fault.
No, he had a match with Vince Russo that was I would call a miracle. I mean, it wasn't like it wasn't a great match, but it was with Vince Russo. I mean, what are
Yeah.
It was a miracle. Let's go to
Vince. He's trying to do the best he can.
Let's go to Ricardo in New York.
Yes. Hi, Dave. Hi, Brian. Hi, Mr. Guerrero.
Yes, sir.
First of all, a quick question and a comment. The question is, could you tell us? Maybe you talked about this already. What is the difference between the WCW backstage environment compared to the WWF backstage environment? And Eddie, I'm going to hang up, so I just want to tell you something in Spanish. Usted es el mejor y no deje que nadie le diga lo contrario, señor.
Gracias, amable. To answer your question real quick,
sure.
It's the same thing. Backstage, the environment is fun, and everybody's on the same team in WWF. And in WCW, everybody's for themselves. Not everybody, but I would say the top players are for themselves. And it's basically a den of snakes.
All right. Okay, Eddie, before we go, as far as the character that you now play, and there's been criticism of the character, what's your thoughts as far as, how much of that was your decision, how much of that was their suggestion, and how far...
That was my decision. I just think it's an entertaining character. I think it's kind of like a Cheech and Chong character.
Yeah.
A wrestling Cheech and Chong. That's what I'm trying to do, really. And if people love Cheech, So I just think it's entertaining. I mean, what do you guys want? You guys want to be entertaining, right? Now, as far as wrestling, you guys know I can wrestle. I just want to be entertaining in a way that I can entertain outside of the ring. You know what I mean? And I've had that privilege of doing it with China. And I think, a lot of people may be mad or say I'm being stereotyped. But how can you say that when you got guys doing like Godfather? I mean, doing the pimping gimmick, and you got all kinds of other stuff that I don't want to mention that are even more stereotyped than that. It's just all I'm doing is being one of the guys of the neighborhood that I grew up in. So stereotyping? No, I'm just being myself. That's all. Being one of my homies that I grew up with, really. That's what I'm doing.
I just want to ask you, what are your thoughts, because we've got a few emails about this one, is regarding Kurt Angle, because, here's a guy who, probably 2 years in the business, we've talked about this many times on the show. I've seen very few guys in my life with that little experience, take to this business the way he has?
Phenomenal. That's all I can say. Phenomenal. I would love to work and hang with him. I've worked a couple matches with him. I think they've been pretty good. I know that if I were to get some more chances with him, I know we could have some hellacious matches. Because we just get that, you know, there's certain wrestlers you gel with. And I feel that I have a good gel with him.
That is pretty much, we're running low on time. Eddie, I want to thank you very much. Brian, anything quick for Eddie before we got to go?
When do we get the Eddie Guerrero's My Favorite Wrestler t-shirt?
All right, everybody's been telling me that, and I'm going to go ahead and come out with that. But I got to do it in my character, so I got to think of something a little different. Okay? Eddie Guerrero's my favorite wrestler as long as Mamacita's on the side.
You know, as far as like, was there any reservations as far as like, you know, like your real life as far as like the China thing, or was it just like to you, it's like this is just part of the entertainment act and it's no big deal?
No, if anything, before I did anything, I talked to my wife about it. And she, the good thing was Joni China was so professional. She's such a professional. And she's such a sweet girl that she even talked to my wife personally and, you know, made sure, you know, gave her confidence and made sure that everything was going to be cool, you know, so thank God for that. And I'm happy working with her. She's great. She tries hard. She's always, you know, she's a constant professional. That's all. I can say nothing bad about her because she tries so hard, and she's always there.
Okay, we are totally out of time. I want to thank you very much, Eddie, for doing the show, and I want to remind everyone that tomorrow we're going to have Kurt Angle on, so it should be quite an interesting show as well. So it's been a hell of a week here on Wrestling Observer Live, and we'll see you tomorrow at 6.